Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday. Welcome to the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Mike?
It is going well. I'm enjoying a tasty beverage as we record on this fine April Fool's evening, Mike Hill. What do you think about April Fool's Day?
I was completely unaware of that today was April Fool's Day, until you brought that up, actually.
How about that?
Yeah. No one, no
Um,
one, no one played any tricks on me today. So,
yeah, you know what sucks? I always my uncle's birthday is April 1st, and then of course today I neglected to call him, so which means I'm gonna either call him late this evening or probably just give him a call tomorrow to wish him happy birthday. Um, when someone's birthday is April 1st, that's something you always kind of remember though, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm
It's kind
really
of like
bad with
a
remembering birthdays, dude. I actually I have all the important birthdays in my Google Calendar, so
mm,
with notifications, you know what I mean?
that's a good idea. I'm like you. I need my brother Mark to send me all of my niece and nephew's birthdays
Yeah,
so that
dude.
I have them, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm very bad like that.
yeah, it's like the only ones I have in my brain are my parents, now
Mhm.
just my mom and my
Mm,
fiance. If
yep,
I
yep.
can't get those wrong.
No,
So yeah,
that
that would
is
be bad.
yes, that is true. But yeah, spring is creeping on in, you know, a little cold today in the New York, New Jersey area. We always like to let the listeners know how the weather is. Just one of the little things we do here on the Necromaniacs podcast. Um, I wanted to say a little something. It was a very nice touch last week, Mr. Hill, that you closed out our Eyes of Laura Mars episode with the Barbra Streisand jam. So I wanted to
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, man. It's, you got to give respect where respect is due. And like I said,
Mhm.
I'm a fan of Babs. Dude, maybe it's a regional thing,
Mm.
but I think Barbara Streisand was a pretty lady, man.
Oh yeah.
I
Um, mhm.
love Barbara Streisand.
When I was a kid, I remember being sick, one time, home from school or whatever the hell it was. And on Channel 9 or Channel 11, there was like a movie on, and it was The Owl and the Pussycat with
Oh yeah,
Barbara Streisand, where she plays I believe, a lady of the evening,
that's right.
Michael. And
Yes.
she looked really hot in that movie. And the image of her in that movie is kind of burned in my head. I mean, and that movie was already old when it was being shown on TV back in the 80s. And then a few years ago, that there were like these stills that came out, like some behind the scenes stills of that movie, of like really raunchy outfits that she was wearing that I guess maybe didn't make the cut. And I was like, well, here we go, you know?
I always felt like Barbara Streisand was like one of these women you'd see, like one of these like ladies you'd see on the F train or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, right.
you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah,
and,
just
and I
classic.
know we're getting super regional right now, but like,
Yes, we are. We are.
but where in Brooklyn is she from? Is she from like Marine Park or something like that?
No, not really sure. Maybe like Flatbush, or definitely not like Sheepshead or Marine Park or anything like that. I think a little further up, you know, maybe even not super far from where you used to live, actually. I think almost maybe even like around there.
Okay.
Um, but that would be interesting to dig up if we wanted to. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, look, it probably is a New York kind of thing or whatever. But I mean, she's obviously an international major star. But yeah, I think some people really appreciated that episode.
Yeah. Nah, it was fun, man. Definitely.
Hmm.
You've been checking anything out? Well, actually, before we do that, let's shout out the bros. I
Yes.
like to get those
If you're
guys.
new to the show, and you may be, Necromaniacs podcast is a part of a crew, a cabal of other like-minded podcasts known as the Horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. Right, Mike?
That's right. Kicking things off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666, and Brandon has also added a Friday installment of kind of like a staff picks sort of thing on Fridays.
Hmm. Very
And
cool.
yeah, I've been enjoying those too.
Yeah, definitely. On Tuesday, my favorite metal podcast in the land, Jackie Smith's own Into the Necrosphere. I am very excited for what I believe will be next week's episode. Um, a person who has his own YouTube channel and persona that I check out on a daily basis, I believe could be a guest, and that is all I will say.
Actually,
So,
that was today's episode.
oh wait, that was today's
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my goodness,
yeah.
I thought it was
J
next week.
Dog. Yeah, no,
Yes. Oh
yeah,
my God. Okay, listeners, J Dog from Hell's Headbangers is a guest on the brand new installment of Into the Necrosphere. For some reason, I thought it was next week. Okay. But I know what I will be listening to tonight, later on, or at least tomorrow while having breakfast. I cannot wait for that. J Dog is, I think he's hilarious.
yeah.
And a lot of my bank account has gone to Hell's
Oh
Headbangers
yeah,
for the last 15 years.
powerful Hell's Headbangers.
Yes.
The new Pro Fanatic EP is coming out in Hell's Headbangers, and
Mhm.
Jackie premiered a track, which
Mm.
as soon as I heard that track, I texted Paul Ledney, and I was like, you know what, man, this fucking track kills. I feel like stabbing somebody right now.
Awesome. There you go, man. Very
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, I mean, Hell's Headbangers, of course, the home of tons of great bands and releases, and the best distro out there for all your death metal, black metal, thrash metal needs, etc. So I can't wait to, check that out. So of course, all the love and praise to Into the Necrosphere podcast. Uh, what about on Wednesday, Michael?
Wednesday's a double shot day. We've got Everything Went Black, which is my long running podcast. And we also have Iblis Manifestations by the powerful Cheyenne of the band
Mm,
Tribax.
very cool. Um, Wanted to make a minor, shout out. Unless I forgot about it, did I mention that I met Alan from Primordial?
You didn't mention that. I know that you went to the show. I
Yes.
was battling sandstorms in New Mexico
Mm,
around that
you
time, so I
were.
was not able to make it. So yeah, that you didn't mention anything about meeting Alan.
Yeah, you know what? Let's wrap up the plugs and I will talk about that.
Okay,
How's that? It just
that
kind of
sounds good.
literally rammed into my head right now. We were on Thursday, I
Yeah,
believe.
yep.
Well, Thursday is this podcast, folks. It's the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. You're listening right now. I hope. Make sure you're subscribed. The best in horror and horror films is right here on Necromaniacs Podcast. On Friday, you have my brother, John Draper. He's my real brother uh, from my own blood in his Spitball Media podcast with his co-hosts Bisho Bryant and Shaheen. It is a really cool podcast where they talk about movies, they talk about television, they talk about streaming services, they talk about fun, entertainment world stuff, sometimes some wrestling because they all were big wrestling guys at one point. Yeah, great podcast, Spitball Media. What about the old weekend, Mike?
Well, Saturday, we don't have anything on Saturday. So
No, we do
that's
not.
an opportunity for you guys to go out and live life
Mm-hmm.
and explore the world and
Yes.
create memories.
Make memories. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Because on Sunday, the sinister minister, Carl Hikara, comes back for Soul Knocks. He puts episodes out on Sundays and Thursdays. And Carl and I are doing our collaboration called Darkness Weaves, where we delve into the work of Carl Edward Wagner. And right
Mm-hmm.
now, we're doing the all the Kane stories. We're working on the novels right now. We're doing the Dark Crusade. And every other month, we switch off between Everything Went Black and Soul Knocks on which podcasts brings you that series.
Very cool. And there you have it. A week of fun podcasts, great stuff to listen to. The horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, all for your listening pleasure. Yeah, kids, I forgot to talk about going to see a band that I've been listening to for a very long time, probably around 97 or so. The Pride of Ireland Primordial played their first show in New York in about 10 or 11 years at TVI the other week. Um, and they were fucking great, Mike Hill. They played for 2 full hours. How about that?
That's a serious set, man.
Yes. They played Boston the night before, and they did New York, and then they did the Hell's Heroes Fest in Texas, which looked like it was quite a bit of fun as well. Saw a lot of footage from that. But I got to chat and hang out and drink with Alan Averill, the lead singer of Primordial, and he couldn't have been a nicer, fucking cooler guy, Mike. He was really nice and chill, and also hanging out with us for at least an hour and change were two members of New York's own Negative Plane. So we were all
Oh,
hanging out together, drinking and talking shit and having a good time. So that was really fun.
that's awesome, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
TVI is a nice small venue to see a band like that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I got a shirt, of course, and I brought 9 CD sleeves to get signed, and he happily signed all of them. And yeah, again, just a really cool guy. He bought me a beer, Mike Hill.
Oh,
How about that? Instead of me buying him a beer.
wow.
Um, but yeah, we talked about Slayer and Slayer's albums, and we were talking about Mortician and Incantation and Immolation and Suffocation, and it was just a really good chat about all things metal. And again, check out his podcast, Agitators Anonymous, which comes out every Friday. It's another really good metal podcast, but also he'll go into politics or social issues and whatnot. Different from, of course, Into the Necrosphere in that respect, but again, couldn't have been a nicer guy. Fucking amazing band. Full support for Primordial and Alan, man. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like a nice guy, man. I've listened to his show fairly
Mhm.
regularly. I saw Primordial at Maryland Death Fest a number of years ago. They're great live.
Yeah, yeah. Such a like unique band. It's like when you got to describe them to somebody, and if you said black metal, you'd be wrong, and if you said pagan metal, you might be wrong, and if you said like, I mean, they're kind of both, but they're also kind of like just like epic, like you know what I'm saying? They're very like singular, in a way.
There's like there's also like a classic heavy metal vibe to a lot of their music, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Which I
definitely.
appreciate that. You know, like, you can tell those guys are into like Maiden and like UFO and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. They write interesting songs, and his lyrics are very thought out, and sometimes they're about like Irish politics or Irish history, or just like he's not a stupid guy, he's a smart guy in a metal band, and it definitely kind of shines through in what he does and his art. So I don't know, it's just always been something about them I've always liked. I don't think they have a bad record among the batch. They're like one of those bands for me. So, you know, check them out if you have not. Aside from that, I've got to catch up on my Conans. I need to go to the comic store to pick up my volume 1 and 2 of the Titan Conan, Mike Hill, because I got
Yeah.
that volume 3 sitting here, and I think they have my 1 and 2. I got to double check tomorrow. Um, and on the comics front, also, Batman Hush Part 2 has come out, and I got Part 1 of that. Hush was this really big deal. Uh, was it 20 years ago already? Like Jim Lee was drawing it, and it was a really cool Batman storyline in the O's. And of course, everything old is new again, so they have decided to do a new Hush, which I don't even know the basis of it. Obviously, I mean it is called Hush 2, but I don't know what the full plot is. Um, but I know they have some major plans for Batman coming soon, so I'm kind of excited to read this.
I'll probably check that out. Yeah, I'm pretty much caught up on all my Conan stuff. I think that the Titan stuff is fantastic, man. It's like it's enough like what you're used to reading the first time around with Marvel, you
Mm,
know, if you were around for that. But it's also not just doing fan service. Like the stories are just like really well written, and it's in the same spirit as like the old Roy Thomas like scripts. And Roy Thomas wrote the most recent issue of Savage Sword. So yeah, so there you go.
that is very cool. Yeah, on my viewing front, I am just about starting season 3 of Daredevil.
Ah, yeah,
You forget that back in the day, Netflix did not do no 6, 8 episode things. They did 10, 12 episode things.
right.
So it is taking me a minute to get to Daredevil Born Again, which is the new episodes. I still have to finish season three, which was from 2018 or so, 2019. But I'm enjoying the hell out of it because this was a fucking great series, man.
Yeah, I got to rewatch those three. That's something
Mm,
I got to do on my own, I think. I'm not going to be able
yeah.
to rope Tina into watching that with me. Definitely
Although
not.
Tina made I really appreciate that first season, which I don't know. There's just that was just some really good television, I thought. You know, bit of a dip in season two, even though it introduces a wonderful Punisher. I just thought the way they built up season one, I thought was amazing with Kingpin.
Yeah, I'm stoked to get back into that for sure. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna because there's gonna be a Punisher series too, so I'm probably gonna have to re-up my Disney Plus subscription.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, Disney Plus is getting a lot of mileage out of me. I don't know. There's ones I'm not even, uh, you know, some are gathering dust in the old streamers, but not Disney Plus. And that's about it for what I've been doing.
I checked out a movie that I actually would be into covering at some point.
Hmm.
Um, and that would be the 1964 The Last Man on Earth
Oh, okay,
With
yeah.
Vincent Price.
Mm,
And of course that's an adaptation of I Am Legend by the great Richard Matheson.
yes.
And in my opinion, probably the best version of that story. I mean, Omega Man was cool, Charlton
Mhm.
Heston, but I kind of like the original The Last Man on Earth a little bit more.
You know, I feel like I may have seen it just once ages ago or never saw it. So I'm gonna probably go with I never actually got to
Dude,
see it. So I would love to watch that. Yeah.
it's bleak.
Hmm.
It's black and white. It's got the great Vincent Price in it. It's like more faithful to the source material, I think. If anyone's ever read the Richard Matheson novella, I Am Legend, it's very, for the most part, faithful to that story.
Mm. Awesome,
Yeah,
man. Yeah, I would definitely be down to check that out. Yeah.
yeah. And then, of course, White Lotus.
Yes. Uh, listeners, some of you are perking up right now, and some of you are going to get a donut. We have to talk about White Lotus briefly. Um, I thought this was a very good episode. As far as the thing, okay, a lot needs to happen next Sunday. Don't you agree? Like a lot
Dude,
needs to get wrapped up.
it's the last episode, man. And like I still
Yes.
nothing's really happened, man. It's like we don't know anything. It's like the plot is creeping along, man. And
Uh,
it's like there's some anticlimactic moments, with Walton Goggins' character confronting the guy who, I'm going to say allegedly murdered his dad.
yes. Now, did you take that as for a hot minute? I almost took that as, wait a minute, maybe this guy didn't murder his dad, or was it really maybe that he at this point he didn't even like care anymore because he saw a frail old man?
All right, two couple things with that. Like when he mentioned his mother's name, right?
Yes.
The guy like perked up, but with the
Mm.
like I can't believe you're mentioning her. Like somehow there's a story with her too, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then if he did which led me to believe that maybe it was a lie that his mother told him that this guy murdered his father,
Mm.
and then
Maybe,
so
maybe.
that, and I think Walton Goggins' character was like so just the guy was so pathetic and weak and old and
Mm.
frail that he didn't want to kill him anymore.
You know what was really nerve-wracking was that I thought the two of them were doing such a bad job of buttering up the woman.
They had no
Like
plan, dude. They walked in
they had
nothing.
they didn't watch a single one of her movies.
They didn't even
They
know the
didn't
names
know
of them.
anything. Like it wasn't like, and it made me nervous.
Yeah. That was cool. That part was cool because it was so much. That was like kind of that show has like this anxiety element to it, and that
Yes, it
that I think
does.
it was like front and center in that scene for sure.
Yeah. The finale, next week's episode is 90 minutes. So that's cool.
Dude, they better fucking. I need answers, man.
And
Like
it's also the longest episode in the series history. So I like that.
yeah.
Um, what are they going to do with the two brothers? Like, what are they going to do there? What do you like? They 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 need to do something there, but I don't know what they're going to do.
Um, I feel like the younger brother is going to stay in Thailand,
Okay.
and I think, well, eventually the whole thing with the dad's going to have to be revealed, right?
Right,
And
like that's at the forefront of the family, but
yeah,
do you think there's even a chance that their secret will just stay between the two of them, and then
that
that's that storyline? Like that's it? Like,
if that was if that would, I think that that should stay a secret, man. I think
mm.
that's
Yeah,
something
oh
that
well,
neither one of them
yes. I
want.
mean, of course, that should say secret, but I'm talking about to the like to everybody, any other family member, or like, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like,
I thought that
yeah,
the younger brother was going to have sex with his sister, and I thought that maybe this like an incest thing was like some weird fetish that he had or
so
something.
did a lot of people in the Facebook group at one point.
Yeah,
Yes.
or he was.
Actually, some people called that in season episode one or something when they said that they would sleep in the same bed. But the younger brother did say a little something to the sister about his dark secrets or whatever the fuck, how he worded it or something, or his
Yeah,
something. But, you know, and then she probably was like, what is he talking about, kind of thing, you know? Um,
yeah. It's real uncomfortable, man. That
yeah,
whole
it's
family
uncomfortable.
dynamic, you know. But something is going to happen. Um, the I was relieved that he did not go to Greg Gary's party.
Greg Gary, yeah, Greg Gary,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was relieved by that. You know, that could have been really another uncomfortable situation, and who knows what would have happened.
Mhm. And Greg Gary's sexual requests. What are your thoughts on that?
That's repulsive to me. Uh, he called it. That's like demented and
Yeah.
fucking disgusting. So yeah, I
Well,
mean,
here's okay. What's really funny about that is that almost simultaneously there was this whole thing about just that in like the New York Post.
about
But
the
and I'm not talking about the White Lotus show. I'm talking about in reality, like
oh really
of
like the
people.
like people that are into that kind of vibe.
Yes, yes, like sleep with my wife kind of people.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
oh, that's actually huge right now, apparently.
really
Yes, yeah. So it's a
well not
timely.
not
Isn't that
not
timely?
not here in the Hill house.
Not
That's
in
for
the
sure.
Hill household. Yes, not in the Hill household. Got it.
Yeah.
Hmm. If we have new listeners, our show is usually not this risque, Michael. Would you agree? We're
No.
usually a little more PG-13 at this
Yeah.
show, I think.
And I'm not a prude, man, but there's definitely
No.
I have like boundaries for sure, man, you know.
Yes, yes, Mike just has boundaries. It's fine. The thing is, not in the Hill household. But according to this article that I read, it's a happening, as they say. It's happening. Um, wow. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's called Life Imitating Art or Art Imitating Life. Who knows? You know?
Yeah.
Um, it's this is the world we live in now. But I am excited for the finale, and we will see what happens, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I need answers, bro.
we
Honestly,
need some answers. We
need some
do. I want
answers.
to know who dies. I still think more than one person's going to die, even though it seems like, you know, everyone's banking on who's going to die as in singular. I feel like I have more than one person dying.
The other thing too is like Greg Gary
Mm-hmm.
is the common thread through all the seasons so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like um I think that it's presumptive that there's going to be a season four. I think that it's
Mm-hmm.
like very presumptuous that there's going to go on past this season. I just need to know more about that dude, like what his deal is, man. Like he's the linchpin in all this stuff. He's behind the scenes. He's like the hidden hand. And I know nothing about him really at all. We just know that that gay dude from the last season was in love with him, and like he was a cowboy, you know, and that's all you know about him. Like, what is his motivation? Like, what is propelling him through the universe? You know, I need to know that about him since he's the only thread that connects everything right now.
Well, folks, as we hot off the presses here, there is going to be season four. There is going to be season four, so that is happening. but I'm seeing two conflicting things online. One says somewhere in Europe, and the other says New York City.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So how about that? Um,
Hmm.
I wouldn't mind a New York City setting, but I am okay with a European setting as
I don't
well.
see Greg Gary making it in New York, honestly.
Hmm, okay, okay.
He's not a New York type of guy.
Unless we have a new person who propels
Yeah.
forward, right?
Yeah.
To me, I'm along for the ride. I think it's a really good show. I
Yeah.
think it'll go down as one of HBO's marquee shows, important shows. Um, you know, I kind of like not knowing where it's going to go. But again, I saw one thing that said something about New York and something that said Europe. So
Hmm.
we'll
I
see.
mean, Greg Gary's like, you would see him in the Hamptons probably or something like that, like way out
With a
there.
third name, George, Greg Gary
George.
George.
Yeah. Vinny.
Vinny?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But there's your White Lotus moment, folks.
Oh,
Season finale is next week, and we'll do our little White Lotus moment wrap up. For those of you who are not fans of the show, I hope you enjoyed your snack. And tonight's episode, bit of a wild card here, folks. The 1985 independent American horror film, Confessions of a Serial Killer, Mike Hill.
and this one comes directly from the listeners. And we don't have, by the way, we don't have any calls this week. So, but
No, we
this
don't.
this comes directly from Tavis, Pittsburgh.
Mhm. Thank you,
A
Davis.
gentleman who I met in person in Pittsburgh while I was on tour last year, and fantastic person. And he recommended this, and there is just something about it, man. It's the fact that it came out before Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is a fan favorite here at Necromaniacs.
Yeah.
And you'd seen this before,
Yes.
so I felt like I was intrigued by this movie.
It is an intriguing film. To me, it was also an unforgettable film. This didn't hit the video stores until 92 or so.
Right.
Um, and the weird thing about it is that they it was on the heels of the Silence of the Lambs mania. Even though this movie should have been like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer aping kind of thing, but the people who were behind the distribution of this film in America were more excited about the success of Hannibal Lecter
Yeah.
and put this very silly box cover on this as a rental back in the day that almost looks Hannibal Lecter-esque with the masks,
Yeah.
although the movie bears zero resemblance to Silence of the Lambs, and well, quite a bit of a resemblance to Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. The really weird thing is that Henry essentially comes out in it was released in the Chicago Film Festival in September of 86, but comes out theatrically in January of 90. So it sits for a while because it was
Right.
very shocking and controversial, and they found trouble getting it out there.
Yeah, definitely.
This
That
movie releases in 85 to God knows where, but again, doesn't actually come out till like 92, late 91, I believe. And I think I rented this in 92, I'm going to say early 92. And I never fucking forgot this movie, Mike. What about you?
I'd never seen it until just a week ago, honestly.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent,
Yeah,
man.
dude.
Excellent.
I really wasn't aware of this movie. Yeah, and just a comment quick on the box cover, strictly marketing,
Yeah.
strictly, and yeah, they were trying to cash in on the Hannibal Lecter vibe, but yeah, it's got nothing to do with that. So don't, if you guys go out there and try to find this, don't let that dissuade you from watching the movie.
Yeah. The other thing is that right now, your best bet to watch this movie is via YouTube. I believe the one I watched, which I believe is the one you watched, Michael, is even the uncut version of this
Yeah,
film. Um, because according to IMDb, the different cut of this movie mentions all the scenes that I saw in the movie I watched, like that were kind of taken out. Um, with the, fucked up thing with them as kids and having sex in front of the kids. Apparently, there was a version where that wasn't in there, but that was in the version I watched
Yeah.
last
Hmm.
night. And several other scenes that were taken out in some places definitely made it into this YouTube cut I saw,
Yeah.
which is pretty shocking. Some of it.
If you live in New Jersey, there's a there's a free channel you could watch it on called Local Live, and that's where I found it first. So it was on there. There's with ads, but then I was so moved by this film that I actually bought a Blu-ray of it too. Now I have the Blu-ray. It's got some extras on it
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Unearthed, the mighty Unearthed, that has lots of films that you'll want to take a shower after watching.
Hmm.
Put this out on Blu-ray, which I would like to see just to see finally a non-grainy, shitty
Yeah.
version of the film. Um, and I read what the extras are, so I'm also intrigued by the extras on the Blu-ray. So, um, yeah, this movie, much like Henry, will stay with you. Uh, in some ways, they're both. I mean, they're similar. There's definite similarities, Mike, don't you think?
Yeah, they're if you want to get real heavy and dark, this would be a good double feature, actually. If you wanted to get like, if you're like have no friends and you live alone,
Mm,
and
mm.
and you have like a light bulb, illuminating your one bedroom apartment, this is the type of film you could watch both of these back to back.
Interesting addendum is that back in the day, this movie was picked up by Corman in the 80s, but he sat on it and then and got it out there amongst the post Silence of the Lambs mania. He sat on it because of its similarities to Henry. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah. He delayed the release of the film several years. But you know what? That makes sense
it
because
does.
Henry came out to wide release first and was a hit and was like this important, shocking landmark film. And this movie, okay, although it is good, it is not like technically and acting wise as good as Henry. So it completely would have been overshadowed. So I probably would have sat on it
Yeah.
too if I owned it. Yeah.
There's like pluses and minuses with both films actually, because I mean, obviously, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, it's like it's almost an art film in some ways. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Like a very dark experimental art film.
Yeah. Whereas Portrait is more exploitation-y,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, it was written and directed by this guy Mark Blair, who hasn't done anything as far as I can see. This is the only
Yeah.
film he's made. So take that as you will.
Mhm.
It's 89 minutes long, and as we mentioned earlier, it came out. It was made a year before Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, and then we talked about the release dates and all that sort of stuff. Um, the cast is Robert A. Burns as Daniel Ray Hawkins, you know, and
Amazing
obviously,
job, by the way.
yeah,
Honestly, this guy, there's just something about him in this movie that you're kind of like glued to him. He's very kind of like everyday guy, but still very scary at the same time, Mike. You know what I'm saying?
well, he actually looks like Henry Lee Lucas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more than Rooker did in Henry. Yes.
yeah,
And he looks more just like a serial killer. He looks like he could be a serial killer, honestly, this guy.
yeah.
Uh, Interesting addendum. He's the art director of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the original Hills Have Eyes and Tourist Trap. How about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, mostly his career is like art direction and like casting and stuff like that. Like he's not
Yeah.
really an actor. Um,
Uh, Died in May of 2004 at the age of 60 from kidney cancer. But yeah, interesting resume this guy had. Again, did a very, I don't know, hell of a job in this movie as a serial killer,
yeah.
though.
He was also an expert on Rondo Hatton. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he's like a very old school, kind of horror guy.
Mhm.
And so yeah, he's an expert on him.
Yeah, named after those Rondo Awards, I believe, which are like these awards they give out in the horror world for like literary and like film stuff and things like that. Rondo Hatton had this very distinct look, and the awards that they give bear his visage, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have Dennis Hill as Moon Luton. So, all right, real quick here. This is basically the story of Ottis Toole and Henry Lee Lucas.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
to a serial killing pair who were lovers, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Only we've given them different names in this movie. We've given
yeah,
him Daniel Ray Hawkins is Henry, right?
yeah,
And Dennis actor Dennis Hill plays Moon Luton, who's supposed to be Otis Toole. They just have
yeah.
different names. Yeah.
Berkeley Garrett as Sheriff Will Gaines. I think he did a great job actually in this film.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sidney Primer, and there's like a Molly Luton, which is Moon's sister who shows up in
Yep.
the film,
Yeah.
and then a bunch of people. That I'm not going to go through everyone that played in this film.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of minor roles, a lot of
yeah,
murdered people. Yes. Murdered women. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, like essentially, where these films differ. Okay, now it's really kind of have to talk about both of these movies at the same time almost
Yeah.
because they're basically about the same people. They're about Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole
Mhm.
and the sister of Otis. Where Henry takes place in real time, like it takes place like linearly, right? Confessions of a Serial Killer takes place in retrospect.
Yes.
Yeah. So they pick up um Daniel Ray Hawkins. He's arrested for the murder of somebody, and he's being interviewed by the police. And I really liked the way that whole that's where the film craft comes into play here because I think this was really well done because it could go a lot of different ways,
Mhm.
especially with a guy who disappeared after he made this film. Mark Blair didn't do anything
Oh
after
my
this
God.
that I know of. He
Yes.
made this movie and he pieced out.
Mm.
And I think besides like with his obvious limitations with actors and budget, the film itself is like fantastically put together, if you ask me.
Absolutely. For a small budget and just kind of like a small, creepy film, it's very effective, Mike. No?
And it's very like regionally accurate. You know what I mean? It
Mm.
takes place in Texas, and it's like the sheriff comes in. He's got a cowboy hat and like he looks like a fucking Texas guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're both there's two police officers that are trying to sweat him out. Trying to
Mhm.
like get him to cooperate and everything. And but then Sheriff Will Gaines rolls up, and
Hmm.
and he's like the good cop. You know,
Yeah.
he's like, why don't you guys get yourself a cup of coffee? And he's like, get us a couple of cheeseburgers,
Get some
fries. He's like,
cheeseburgers. Yeah, there's just this very like, but no, what's really funny? That is what I like. Ever just have weird lines in movies that stay with you forever?
oh yeah.
That is one of the weird lines from the early 90s as a teenager seeing it that stayed with me. That when it came on again in this week's viewing, I kind of like chuckled to myself. I was like, there we go. There's the movie.
And it's like that kind of dialogue and like you guys all know I love dialogue and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I just think that this kind of thing, this sort of like atmosphere that was created by this is it just puts you right there with them, you know? And and the movie is almost like a police procedural. Like there are moments in this film where you feel like you're watching a documentary.
Yeah, 100%.
The interviews are very realistic. The way that Daniel Ray Hawkins, that character responds to the questions, his reluctance to talk at first, and
Mhm.
then Sheriff Gaines like gets him to open up, and then game on. That's the film just starts rolling from there.
Yeah. Um, the other thing about this movie that I like is it doesn't like shy away from the the grossness, I guess we could say, right? Like it's I don't know, it's there, man. Like the killings are not they're close up. Like there are these kind of rapey scenes, and it kind of goes for it. What do you think?
It's very triggering. If you watch
Yeah,
the
it is.
uncut version, like the one that
Yeah,
Unearth put out, and the one that's on YouTube
yeah.
apparently, it's it's a rough movie, man. I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, it's a rough movie. And there's some scenes that are very, very hard to watch sometimes.
Mm,
Particularly the scene where, the woman that they raped the woman and they cut her throat. It's hard.
yeah,
It's a hard film.
it's just as bad, if not worse, than Henry, or I guess worse. No, can we say it's probably kind of worse
I feel
graphically?
like the extremity is the same. It's just a little bit different. Like I was saying about
Mm,
Henry, Henry is done in this like a very artsy way in some ways. Like it's
mhm.
stark and brutal, but there's like McNaughton's making like a statement, you know what I mean? And this version of the story that Mark Blair told, it's it's stark, but it's done like almost in a documentary fashion, which makes it even creepier in some ways. Like you feel like you're actually
Yes.
watching like footage of this stuff happening at times.
Yeah, yeah. It's got this realness to it, you know? I mean, so did Henry, of
Yeah,
course. But this one, I don't know. It goes there, as they say.
yeah. Michael Rooker is just a little too handsome, I think, to play Henry. You know?
I just think they had a little more coin, you know, and
Yeah.
the less money, I don't know, makes it worse. I don't know. It's hard to put into words, I guess.
Well, all right. We got we got Robert A. Burns, Dennis Hill. Okay, they're playing the. I'm not going to use their names in that they gave in the film. They're basically that's Henry Lee Lucas and Ottis Toole. All right,
Yeah.
and then you got the late great Tom Towles and
Mhm.
Michael Rooker playing
Right.
Henry and Ottis. So there's I guess like with Rooker and Towles,
Hmm.
after watching this film, you know that you're watching actors in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're watching like actors. You've seen them before. They've showed up in other films, and it's a very stark, brutal movie. There's like a
Hmm.
bleakness that's in that film. But when you're watching Burns and Hill, you don't feel like you're watching actors. You feel like you're watching guys who have actually taken human life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the difference.
That's the
That
difference
is the
right there.
difference.
And
That,
both of these
mhm.
films are great, but they're just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, to go kind of scene by scene and shot by shot is a little, I don't know if we need
No, we
to.
don't
I
need to
mean,
do that.
it's, it almost follows the story of Henry to a degree. I think there's more killings in this. There's more, you know, bang for your buck with the grossness and the killings and the
Yeah.
darkness in this. And there's one very disturbing scene of the Daniel Ray, aka, you know, Henry as a child with his sister, watching the mother have sex with two men, and then in the other room the dad kills himself. Yeah, that scene's gonna stay with you.
It,
Okay, that's you know,
yeah.
uh,
And the other thing too is like in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, Henry's past is like embellished sort of, you know what I mean? Like he gives a different story about his mother and how he
mm,
killed her every single time. Remember that there's like
yeah.
it's like
The
I killed her with a
other
knife, you
thing.
know?
Okay, here's the other thing to bring up. You know how, like in real life, we don't really know how many people Henry killed, with the exception of the confirmed ones, because he bragged a lot and talked a lot of shit. Like we don't really know. Like we really know how many certain serial killers killed because we have all the bodies, right? Henry put himself in a lot of other murders to the degree where law enforcement was like he was talking shit. Whereas when it came to Gacy and Bundy, it was more like, no, he's got other bodies, and we actually believe that he has other unconfirmed bodies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Henry's was a little more different, like a little more shit talky.
Yeah, yeah. Like
This movie brings
apparently,
that home a little more than Henry
yes.
does at all. Henry doesn't really do that at
Yeah.
all, actually.
Well, in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, he's not caught. At the end, he just kills the sister, puts her in a suitcase, and drives away. right?
Yes, that's the other big difference. It's a
Yeah.
big
And
difference.
in this film, it starts off with Henry being caught. And then so and this I know from the 90s when I used to read all these books about these guys, like the cops basically tried to like close as many cases as they could with and pin them on Henry Lee Lucas. And he was
Mm.
more than happy to take responsibility for all these murders that he may or may not have even committed.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about this one, where it addresses that because that was in real life a bit of the issue with law enforcement and Henry Lee Lucas. Um, he kind of while they got him obviously on some of the things he did, he bragged about things that they're pretty sure that he didn't do, you know. Um, but at no point in this movie where is it like an American Psycho where it's like, did he do any of these things? Well, no, he 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 did these things. It's just that I like how the police are a little skeptical about some of it.
And the other disturbing thing in this film too is like it starts off where he's like very close, very tight-lipped in the beginning of this movie with the cops, right?
Mhm.
You know, then Gaines rolls up and kind of like softens him up, buys him a couple burgers, you know, and then he gets comfortable, right?
Mhm.
And then there's a scene where there's like three cops and him, and they're driving around in a cop car,
Mhm.
visiting different locations, you know, crime scenes where he's claimed to have dumped the bodies. And Henry at this point is playing it real loose, man. Like he's real comfortable. And they
Mhm.
stop at a drive-in to get burgers. And you know, the waitress comes up and he gets like kind of creepy with her.
Mhm.
And and the cops in the car, you can tell are just like there was a suddenly things changed. Like they weren't there was it was subtle, you know what I mean? Like they're buying him burgers and fries and shakes and he's joking around with them, but then
Mhm.
you see that he's actually a dangerous guy who would probably rape and murder this poor waitress, you know what I mean, if he could.
Yeah.
And he kind of says something like that too. I forgot exactly what he said, but like, you know, he's like, "Oh, thank you, darling," and then he shows that he's like
Mhm.
handcuffed or whatever, and then the cops are just like, one cop wasn't having it at all. He's like sitting in the back, like he was like the
Mhm.
younger cop. He just was not feeling this guy at all. But the other two were playing the game with him, you know. And I
Mhm.
thought that was a really, really well done scene.
Yeah. That's sick, man.
Yeah.
Um, and some of it has moments of I don't know, like Devil's Rejectsy moments. Am I no?
Maybe I'm not elaborate on that. I'm not sure which parts you're talking about
The
necessarily.
scene where it kind of goes to hell with the house that they're staying at,
Oh, right.
um, and like the sister ends up finally getting killed, and everyone kind of gets shot and killed, kind of like except for him, kind of moment. I don't know something about that,
Yeah.
and it was outside and the sun and in Texas, and a little bit reminded me of Devil's Rejects. I don't know why.
You know, I would bet money that Rob Zombie saw this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Obviously, this is right up his alley. This is the kind of thing that I think would have influenced something that he wrote or directed or did something with.
Okay. Definitely. Um. So yeah, like you said, the big differentiator for Henry in this is that he's arrested and he's with the police throughout this whole film, and he's kind of going over his whole story and reiterating everything, and um, kind of like this cool ending where he's you know requesting more burgers and fries, and he's just completely remorseless, right, Mike? Completely just it's like he's talking about the weather,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I like.
No feelings at all, no remorse,
Mm.
nothing. Just like this reptilian evil, you know?
Yeah, I dug that. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is, this movie is not. Look, Henry isn't really for everybody. This movie is not for everybody. There's a lot of triggers in this movie with rape and extreme violence. So if that's something you can't really hang with, then maybe this movie is not for you. But if you got through Henry, would you blanket say you can get through this, Mike?
Yeah, yeah. If you dig Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer,
Mhm.
I feel like this is like a must watch because
Yeah.
if you're, and even if say you're into true crime, honestly, so if you're into, like like reading or watching documentaries about serial killers,
Hmm.
this is the movie for you because it is kind of like a documentary. It has a police procedural vibe to it. It's basically telling a more or less factual story, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that, like I said, I have hard copies of this film and Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, and it's like if you they look good together up on my shelf right now, side by side. And like I said, if you you know, live alone in a one bedroom basement apartment and it's a Friday night, you don't have any friends, and this would be a great double feature for you.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Okay, it's a little difficult. How would you score this film on our Necromaniac scale of 1 to 5?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, honestly, dude. I quote unquote enjoyed this movie. I'm gonna watch I've watched it twice already.
I had a weird issue with giving it a 4 out of 5. I give it
Yeah,
a super, super solid 3.5. Super
yeah,
solid. Worth seeing. I'd see it again. Not my total cup of coffee, but I do want to see the extras. I want to see,
yeah,
I want to know a little more about this movie. Um, Henry is a better film, but
yeah.
this movie is a pretty sick and solid indie horror film. Yeah.
Yeah, it hits hard, man. And like I said, I was thinking about it. I haven't had a chance to watch the extras on it yet, but this is actually something my Tina loves true crime. So this
Okay.
is something I'm probably going to watch with her, actually. I think she would appreciate this movie.
Yeah, yeah. Again, great Henry companion piece, good serial killer fare, good extreme horror fare. And there you have it.
Yeah.
Confessions of a Serial Killer. Also, a great song from Gorefest, which is probably where they got the song from. Song Confessions of a Serial Killer by Gorefest when they were a good death metal band. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
All right, all
That's what I
right.
was. Well, thanks for listening, guys. And yeah, we'll be back at you next week. Take care
See
now.
you next time. Take care, everybody.
What you I live to you.